Hi guys, welcome to Next Telly. Fashion designers, it is both of us today, all of us together inside one trouser. Today we're going to be discussing Vivienne Westwood. Vivienne Westwood is a very popular designer. I remember the first time I saw a Vivienne Westwood, it was a friend of mine in university who had a pair, I think it was a skirt, this tartan fabric kind of skirt, and I just remember thinking, oh my god, this thing looks so cool. Then, but that was, before then I had heard of her. Of course, there's a popular Naomi Campbell falling down on the on the runway. What made her very popular? Well, she was not really popular then, but that kind of blew up the media then, the model that fell down on these massively exaggerated shoes, and the shoes belonged to Vivienne Westwood. I remember even having a conversation with my dad back then. So that's the first time I remember hearing about her. But the first time I saw one was a friend that had a skirt that I just thought was, it was very cool and interesting looking. And then I looked at the label and I saw Vivienne Westwood. So this book is written by Vivienne Westwood and Ian Kelly. It was written in 2019. She died in 2021, so it pretty much came at the right time. And the first part of the book is pretty much discussing the process that it takes to exhibit or to showcase at Paris Fashion Week, which I think was really nice. Like, the author was, or the writer, this Ian Kelly person, was like talking about, oh, I showed up at this time and they were getting ready for fitting. Turns out that custom was not allowing some of the accessories to go through. Nobody seems to be bothered. People are 4 hours after. So like, I think he did 100 hours, is it 100 up to 100? Let's see, I think 50 hours before the actual show. And then he's surprised at how much time, how much work it's taking just for an exhibition to last. I think it wasn't up to 15 minutes. But welcome to life of performance. That's just how it is. And this book was so nice. I liked, first of all, that's where it starts from. So it grabs you from there before we start going back to the early life of Vivienne Westwood. Vivienne grew up somewhere in the UK. I don't really know the landmarks and all that. I'll write them here if, I'll go through and I'll write them here again. But she didn't grow up in London proper. She grew up in like the countryside. But like she said, she was born shortly after World War II, or in between, no, not in between, just after World War II she was born. And she said that there was, she grew up in a time when there was food rationing, there was no food, things like sugar was a luxury. He said she didn't have a fruit. The first time she had a fruit was when she was 5 years old. And it was a banana, and she didn't like it much. So it's like she grew up in a very, England was still picking its pieces from the war that they went and fought, or they were part of the fight of, and all that. So a lot of times they talk about how it affected their work, money, food, and that's how he grew up. He talked about his friends. But the parents were people that insisted that they went to school. But it wasn't even just a parents thing. I think the community in general had insisted that the kids went to school. The school system was different too. The way it's more arranged now, where like, okay, child will go to the creche and go to nursery school. It wasn't like that. Kids were just going to school. I don't know if you understand. Okay, so it's time for school, you go to school, join your age mates, whatever they're doing, you join them. So she kind of always had this rebellious side, and she always loved art. So professionally, she's actually a teacher. Do you understand? She started her career as a teacher. I'm talking about when she finished what we call secondary school. That's not what it was called then. But when she finished that school, she became a teacher. She became an arts teacher, and she was actually pretty good at it. So she got married at first. She was married 3 times. She got married at first to, I've forgotten his name. Again, I'll write the name here. She got married to him, and the marriage lasted like 2 years. She had 1 son for that guy, and it just lasted like 2 years. The way she made it sound was, I think there was a program that she could go for if she could travel, and the thought of having to stay because she was married and had a baby didn't make sense to her. So for her, it made more sense for her to just carry her baby and go, and then she was gone. But then she came back, it was like, we have to get a divorce, and they got a divorce. And she talks about the relationship she had with her mom and her dad. So it took a while. Like, at this point, she was still working as a teacher. Her younger brother, she's the first child, Abby. She's the first child, yes. So she was with her brother. She rented an apartment. Her brother was staying with her, and some of his friends would come around, and that is how she met her second husband, a guy called Malcolm. And when I tell you this Malcolm is chaotic, it's beyond me. However, Vivienne did not stop working in fashion. Do you understand? She's called a punk princess for a reason. In her story, it kind of builds, as in this book we read, or I read rather, it tells the way she built to become who she is, the way she just always saw life, the way she was very rebellious, the way she just wanted things to be different. Because what then happened was that the UK was so constrained in, what was right. Things had to be like this, blah blah. There was a royal family, it had to be like this. Music needed to be this way. There was a lot of policing. I think a lot of times when I think of Vivienne now, I think of things like political policing. There was policing of the way women dressed, the way the songs people sang, the way people did their hair. There was a lot of policing. So to the point where some people dressed a certain way and they got arrested for it. So Vivienne went counter on it. But she didn't start actually exhibiting it until she married Malcolm. Malcolm is an anti-everything. I don't know if you understand. Malcolm is a force that you want to reckon with, but he's a force you actually want to get away from. Okay? Malcolm is her second husband. Malcolm is, I dare to say, feel free to correct me if you think otherwise, Malcolm is the reason why we know the Vivienne that we know now. Because Malcolm is a fundamentalist. He's an idealist. He's like, no, but he disagrees with everything. So if you wake up one day and say everybody should wear red, Malcolm will say I'm wearing black. Meet me outside. After a while, the government will say, you know what? Okay, everybody wear black. So I'm going to wear yellow. So because of that, Vivienne was an anti-dancer. So that's why the idea of punk. So I used to hear people refer to her as a punk princess. Then when you watch video fashion or video, that show, what's what it's called, right? A lot of times when you watch it, you'll be hearing things like, Vivienne the punk princess, she's the punk. And I'm like, what does punk mean? What I just learned was that punk, when it came out in the, I think it's 40s or the 50s, thereabout, I could be wrong, maybe 60s, when it came out in England, it was supposed to be anti the restriction. So it's the idea of everybody having to wear a suit to go to work, to be like this. Young people did not want to do that anymore. And she also talks about the economics of fashion. Honestly, this book is so enlightening. The economics of fashion, how money, how the government, as it's not like a government thing, but how commerce influences fashion so that they can make money off it. So even the idea of creating a genre or a group or a set. So just like now we have the Gen Z. Gen Z exists because people need to sell to these people. Do you understand? It's an economic thing. So the idea of teenagers being a thing. So what would they wear? How would they be? Before then, people just wore clothes. You wear clothes when you were a child, you are going to wear another one. But now it's okay, now we have teenage stores and teenagers get to wear the dresses that were like this, like that. But women was like, no, we're not doing this. So punk was anti everything that seemed to fit into one place. Now she was married to this guy for a very long time, and the guy was anti. They got married, but he was anti-marriage. He was anti being a dad. That's the issue. So the guy stressed the hell out of Vivienne. But the thing is that Vivienne is that girl who she's somebody that she thought that she always fell in love with people's minds. So the reason why she fell in love with Malcolm was because of his mind, the way he thought. She just liked the way he was very, what's that word? Catastrophic. Is that the word? He was very anti anything, and she just liked it, and she was so drawn to it. It was like, magnets. So she loved that, and that's why she loved this guy, and she was with this guy for years. But a lot of times he would insult her in front of others, in front of the kids. He was disrespectful. Money wasn't even, they were so broke most of the time, and the guy wasn't even to the point of doing anything. But he was able to create things like a band. There was a band called the Sex Pistols, I think, which by default VIVIENNE Westwood officially dressed throughout their career as musicians, as this group, and that was just how, so as time went by, they were able to just bamboozle themselves into one apartment or one store at King's Road, and somehow that just became a place where punks hung out. So a lot of punks would just go. So it was a place of where people came and found identity, and they dressed in VIVIENNE Westwood. You get, but the thing was that there was a lot of carelessness in there, in between all that, because we're trying to do this thing that is so novel and it's beautiful. Money was going under the table and she did not know. So times came, people were stealing from her, she did not know, and she thought things were being handled by Malcolm. Malcolm is busy being anti-everything to actually care about anything, even though everybody should take him seriously. I don't know, it's he's very neurotic and extremely narcissistic. So she was very mean. So they were fighting a lot. So he was very mean, he was fighting a lot. Even eventually, after the guy woke up one day and said he was going to leave and actually left, because a lot of times he would say he would go, and then she's like, okay, fine, because she was tired. And so he would go, and after a while, he'll come back and say, please, don't go. So what then happened was that after he eventually left, he tried to come back because she started seeing somebody else. But she realized that he was too immature. When you leave something, and then you come back and just realize this person doesn't So that whole his ideology suddenly felt like ridiculous. They were stupid. I think they were married for a while. She was in her 30s at this point. She was like, what's this guy on about? Like, what? But the fashion still stayed. You get, and that's how she continued. So how she now moved from there and started getting, she got sponsorship from, she got investors from I think Italy and France, and that's how somehow she moved to the runway, started becoming more on TV. People made fun of her a lot because of how different and how anti, regular she was, until she became a dame, or was it dame that is called? She got, the Queen Elizabeth granted her something. What it was called, But it's such a beautiful story. That's my point, because it's told from everybody's eye. The good thing about this book is that it's not Vivienne that wrote it herself. Like, she's part of the writers, but it's not just her. It was Ian Kelly. So he was going around interviewing different people, interviewed her kids, interviewed her brothers, interviewed her parents were dead at this point, I think, when the book was written. So I don't know, it's just a very beautiful book, and I really think everybody should read it. But one of the lessons you learn from this book is that you need to stand for something. You need to have a story. You need to be defined about what you are as a designer. Once you're able to do that, once you're able to figure that out, I'm telling you, you're going to be such a slam designer. I'm telling you, no matter what happens, be good at your craft, of course, but you need to be, if you're about something, you're going to find people that are yours, that are going to stay, and they're going to do your work for you. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and like and share. Let us continue, okay? So once again, the Next Telly Book Club registration is open for 2025. Leave a comment below if you're interested in joining the book club, or I can leave an email address for you, and you click there and I'll tell you where we go from there. Okay, see you next time.